bloke down the end of the bar, very striking bloke he was. He was about 6'2", one of these kind of Aussie, bronzed Aussie guys, shirt open down to about here, hairless and tanned guy he was. But I also noticed him because hanging around his neck, lying against his tanned, hairless chest on the end of a quite prominent silver chain was a quite prominent silver cross. You know, the kind of cross you might wear if you're a fan of intersections or the lowercase letter T. But probably most commonly if you're a fan of the apparatus upon which first century Romans tortured and put to death thieves and Jewish insurgents. Anyway, he was standing there and he was looking at us, and I could tell he wanted to come over to us. He had that look about him. He was very intense. He was on his own. It was slightly weird, and eventually came over with his torture equipment flapping against his chest, and he said, "G'day Tim, my name's Sam." His name, it appears, was Sam. And he said, "I'm from Dandenong." Dandenong, for those who don't know, is an outer suburb in the hills just outside Melbourne in Victoria in Australia. And eventually he got talking and he was talking. He was one of those guys who didn't have a very good understanding of personal space, but he was very passionate, and I respect that. But I could tell he wanted to say something, and eventually he said, "I want to say something." So I was right. And he said, I've always wanted to ask you something, because I'm a big fan of your work, and I don't want you to think I'm offended or nothing, because I'm not. But you see, I'm a Christian. That settled that. And he said, "I've always wanted to ask you, because you do a lot of material about God and stuff, but you've never answered for me the fundamental question of why. Why you don't believe in God." And I said, "Well, Sam, I don't believe in God for the same reason that anyone who doesn't believe in a thing doesn't believe in it, because I haven't yet been offered enough evidence to allay my doubts." And he said, "But you don't just go through your whole life only believing things that you got evidence for, do you?" And I said, "Yep." Yeah, that's pretty much how thus far I've managed to wade my way through my tepid existence, yeah. And he said, "What about love?" And I said, "What about love?" And he said, "Do you believe in love?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so, Sam. Yeah, I believe in love. I feel love. I feel loved. Yeah, I believe in love." And he said, "Aha! You don't have any evidence for love?" And I said, "Oh, well, yeah, I mean, sure. Love without evidence is stalking." So I was going fine, right? And then Sam said this. He told me the story of his mum, an incredible story, and I'll tell you it now as quickly as I can. Apparently Sam's mum in her early 60s had developed a problem with her eyes, and she didn't want to go to the doctor. She didn't like the idea of doctors, but eventually they cajoled her into going. And the GP, the MD, took one look at her eye and said, "You must see a specialist as soon as possible. This is a degenerative eye disorder. If you don't have surgery, you will go blind." And Sam's mum was afraid, because she didn't trust doctors, she didn't believe in modern medicine. But Sam and his mum had their church there in the hills, in the Dandenong Ranges outside Melbourne in Victoria in Australia. There was one of these big glass, really popular churches, and it was to their church that they went that Sunday. And apparently the entire packed congregation of some 3,000 people all simultaneously prayed for Sam's mum. And the following Tuesday, when they went to the specialist, there was no sign whatsoever that there'd been anything wrong with her eyes. They were perfectly healthy. She was cured. She'd been healed. And the reason this story had such an impact on me is I try more than anything else to be intellectually honest, you know, with myself and with others. And all I've ever said is I want evidence. And here I was for the first time experiencing a first-person account of what can only be described as a miracle. So I went right on home and I wrote this song.